Is everybody ready? Engage Disco. It's Classic Game Room, the podcast, coming to you from the future, from outer space, with some 16-bit beats this week, fueled by the power of blast processing. Can your brain handle the power of the mega synthesis? Let's find out. The newest Omega Ronin album just dropped, called Mission 1 Blade Horizon, which features my first wave of songs fueled by blast processing, including this one, titled Grind Engine. Pilot your spaceship through waves of enemy shot patterns, or battle enemies as a future ninja from a distant part of the universe. There's so many things that you could fight to this music. It's definitely not like a wandering around the environment kind of song, you know? You're not exploring like Phantasy Star 2 here. This is all about blowing things up. And the recent Classic Game Room review is actually on the Mega Synthesis, but I'll talk a bit about the process here and take you through the newest Omega Ronin album titled Mission 1 Blade Horizon, which as of this recording will be on Bandcamp and YouTube. It's going to be on CD and streaming services soon, and hopefully vinyl after that. Maybe 8-track. Anyway, I've been intrigued about trying some video game music for a while now, and picked up this cool device called the Mega Synthesis from Sonicware recently, and I've been playing around with it. And I was looking at doing an entire Omega Ronin album in just like 16-bit music. And I started on that project, started working on a bunch of beats and just rough songs, and while learning how to use the Mega Synthesis. It took me a little while to figure it all out, but now that I've got it, it's a really cool device. And it's a different way of writing songs. And then I started to combine the 16-bit songs with some other regular Omega Ronin songs that I wrote. So I'm like layering these giant synthesizer sounds on top of the 16-bit sounds, and I really liked the result, and it's also great for storytelling. And that's what this entire album is all about. Omega Ronin Mission 1 Blade Horizon is meant to be listened to while you're reading the Omega Ronin graphic novels series. They complement each other. So it's like you're watching a movie, except you're reading a book with awesome tunes that line up with the storytelling. And the albums are constructed in such a way that they tell us they're a narrative storytelling device. In a very loose and somewhat abstract sense, I suppose. But all of the 8 tracks on Blade Horizon are written with the story of Omega Ronin in mind. And I'm still working on the book. It's going to take a few more weeks to get out, but the first issue is on the way. And the song that we heard is actually the 7th song on the album. I'm going to start off here with the first one. This is called Annihilation Event. There's no Mega Synthesis in this one, but a whole lot of other stuff that I think you'll hear, and this is what starts the entire Omega Ronin franchise storyline right here. This is it. You ready? Turn up the volume. It's a good one. That's the beginning of the story, and I can't wait until you see the pictures that go along with it. And yeah, I know this is kind of a bat-crazy idea, but to be honest with you, bat-crazy ideas have worked out better for me than just trying to do stuff that other people do. And that's kind of what drove me in this direction with this album, is that, you know, synthwave is a great sound, and everybody loves that like smooth synthwave sound, but at some point it all starts to sound the same. It just kind of blends in with everything else out there, and that's kind of the similar struggle I had for years doing game review work. I mean, it just blends in with everything else, and it's really hard for people to differentiate why they should be buying or following this versus that. And, you know, so with Omega Ronin, I've been doing this for a couple albums now. I've been aggressively pushing the sound outside of what might be expected from just a typical synthwave kind of sound, and pushing it more towards a cinematic sound combined with like electronica and some industrial influence, and that's what Blade Horizon is. It's like everything kind of rolled into one.
Checkpoint.
And it's beer o'clock. Delicious. So let's move on to the next track. This one does prominently feature the Mega Synthesis. I think that 16-bit blast processing fueled sound will be hard to miss. And if any song on this album is going to be the feel-good hit of the summer, it's this one. Prepare your mind for something completely different from Omega Ronin. This is Beyond Robot. I built that song and most of the 16-bit style stuff in a different way than I would usually create a song. I worked on the sequencer built into the Mega Synthesis, which is like a 6-track sequencer, so you can have one track doing one sound, another track doing another sound, and so on. And the 6th track is reserved for drums. So I found that when I was building these tracks, I was just creating songs in a different way than I would normally create them. Because usually I'll go for like a drum beat first, or a sequence on a keyboard first, and then layer it, and then work in a DAW, digital audio workstation, to create the song. And this time around, I'm building the whole thing in the Mega Synthesis, and then I bring it out of the Mega Synthesis and add producing effects to it and some polish, and then the additional drum beats, and eventually the vocals and all that stuff to just make the song come alive. But the core of it is completely different than something I would have done previously. That's probably a terrible way of explaining this, but I'm like 1/4 of the way through a light beer, so you know, I'm getting silly. Woohoo! Still gotta function later, so if you like the album, once again, check out Bandcamp. And if you're not into it, and you hate it, and you're like, this all sucks, this is dumb, that's, you know, cool, whatever. Music's a very personal thing. It doesn't have to be for everyone. It's alright. Though if you don't like 16-bit music, you will be struck down by lightning god Truxton from space. And that's your problem, really. He's walking around like, I hate Sega Genesis music. What's that light in the sky? There's like blood and, pieces of hair flying everywhere. No one will miss you. This is the song Blade Horizon. You might want to hold on to something. Blade Horizon is the name of one of the spaceships that is prominently featured and very important to the storyline of Omega Ronin. You'll see it in the book, and that song introduces it, this song introduces it, and there's so much in there. I'm like trying to remember what all I put in that track. That's Mogmatriarch, 2 different Korgs, I think Gaia 2 TR8S, Juno 60 plugin, probably a couple other things too. There's quite a bit going on in this one, and this was actually one of the earlier tracks, and I had this reserved as for a single, but then I decided that it really worked well on this album, and then as I was aligning the songs to work with the storytelling, and the songs actually influenced the book and vice versa, it was pretty clear that this would be the song to introduce the ship in the Omega Ronin franchise. So the core of the Omega Ronin storyline is what would happen if the universe's most powerful thing, ever, the entire universe, the whole thing, the single most powerful thing, what would happen if it was kind of broken and discovered by humans? And then maybe formed a rock band while also masquerading as assassins. Yeah. So here's the true story of the story. I don't know what's going on in my head either. But this is Eyes from a Distant Realm, which is played during some storytelling and character development during the book.
terminated. Blade Horizon declared missing.
Yeah, that one makes you want to get up off the couch and dance. Pants are optional. Some classic Ronin, classic synthwave, and kind of poppy, rockin' synthwave sound going on there. I had that one in the back of my head, and I decided it would work well for like some character interaction. But let's get back into some 16-bit groove here with the Mega Synthesis. This is Infinite Reality Meltdown. See if you can spot some of the Sega Genesis sounds in there. They're kind of hard to miss. Infinite Reality Meltdown. Watch out, that one grows on you. There's something about that one that just came alive once I put on the like that additional layer of keyboards in the front and the back, and the whole thing just kind of like tied together. It's a really chill tune, and one that I'm pretty happy with. But from there, we're going back to some more classic Ronin-inspired stuff with Fortune Favors Fantasy, which sounds like the best Billy Idol and Duran Duran crossover ever. Fortune favors fantasy, does it? Does it really? I don't know. I just thought it sounded cool. So I'm putting in a new CD and cassette operation next to the print business, in the print business, working with someone to get everything out on CD and cassette. I've had a lot of people ask about physical media, and it's been a little tricky just because of the sheer volume of content, because I put out a lot. It's electronic music, and with like the modern era of streaming and like all these like shorts and TikToks and all that kind of stuff, it just helps to have a lot of music. Finally, for the first time after many years, I have all my gear in one room together. I've got some new studio space, and it's a lot more efficient. So I like to noodle away on things like the mega synthesis and come up with some tracks. Then I go into the studio, and if I need something on the high end or a little sparkle, I can grab one of the keyboards for that right away. And if I want some bass, I can grab one of the keyboards for that. And it really increases the workflow. So there's a lot of Omega Ronin inbound, especially with the new graphic novel series. And I know that many of you listening don't like streaming, and I don't really care for it either, to be honest. It's great for the car, like it's convenient, but I also like to own my music. And I appreciate good sound quality, so that's something that we'll be able to deliver very, very soon. Within the next couple weeks, actually. So as you're hopefully getting super excited about that, and vinyl is in the pipeline too, but that's way more complicated. I'm going to leave you with the final song from Mission 1, last song on the album, which I built on the Mega Synthesis and decided to have some fun with it. This was actually going to be the first song on the album, but it didn't really work out with the storytelling, so I put it at the back end, and then that allowed me to have a little fun with it in this kind of like club atmosphere. You'll see. I'll talk a little bit more after this, but check out Zone of the Impossible.
Nobody loves you like Omega Ronin. Let's have a round of applause. Except for those of you with table saws for hands, just to keep those to yourself.
Love that Sega Genesis bass. Nothing else sounds quite like it, and the Mega Synthesis allows you to kind of muddy it up too, so you can like put the original imperfections into the bass line, which you can hear in many of the tracks when the bass line is isolated. It's really cool. Very pleased with that, but I suspect many of you are wondering, where's the drum roll? The classic Sega Genesis drum roll that you've heard in so many great songs. That's a good question. That's really tough to create, as it turns out. There's no preset drum on the Mega Synthesis that sounds like the classic Sega Genesis drum roll. Certainly not the drum roll from the soundtrack for Musha, like the best Sega Genesis soundtrack ever. But there's that classic Sega Genesis drum roll, which is like not quite any one instrument. It's weird. Like the toms on my Nord drum and the 808 don't sound quite the same, and I'm trying to figure out if there's a way I can just like use some filters on these things and some effects and just get it to sound quite like the Genesis drum roll. But it apparently is going to take some time. And I've got some songs in mind, like your spaceship shooter kind of songs where the tempo's pretty upbeat and you need that drum roll in there to just start the song off, but I don't have it quite yet. I gotta build that. And you can build your own sounds in this thing, so it might just take some more tinkering and tweaking. Sometimes these things that seem deceptively simple are very, very difficult. But I love the way the Mega Synthesis does just the Sega Genesis bass and some of the weird like metallic effects. and the chimes are really neat, and it's just got a very unique sound quality to it that nothing else has. And I like the way the sequencer works too, so I'm going to have a lot of fun with this thing, and you'll be hearing a bunch of other video game style songs out of the Omega Ronin studio. I may even do an album that's just straight 16-bit without any of the additional processing or the extra, and you can clearly hear where I put some extra drums on things and some different synthesizers, or at least I can. But if I strip all that out, it just has a very raw Genesis feel, and I even have this like vision in my mind of releasing an album on a Sega Genesis cartridge. How cool would that be? But I guess we'll see. We'll see what the future brings. This kind of weird ass crap is often the stuff that works. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this, a little commentary and a quick listen through Omega Ronin Mission 1 Blade Horizon. You can pick it up on Bandcamp right now, and it'll be out on CD and hopefully some other formats very soon, including cassette. Got to keep these old formats alive, and maybe I should put it on Edison cylinder. You can mix it up on the Edison. You can hear all the detail and clarity, like... which is pretty much what the Edison sounds like. Hopefully you caught the review of the Mega Synthesis, a great tool for those of you looking to make video game music. And I'll see you next time on Classic Game Room, the podcast from the future. Yesterday, tomorrow. You just missed it.
All the robot ladies wanna get down with Omega Ronin, because Omega Ronin got the laser